Matheson.
Number 2, sir.
Mr. Speaker, following the request of the Orgreave Truth and Justice campaign for an inquiry or independent review into the events that occurred at Orgreave coking plant on the 18th of June 1984, I have today issued a written ministerial statement setting out my decision. I have concluded that there is no case for either a statutory inquiry or an independent review.
Christian Matheson.
This is an astonishing and frankly shameful decision by the government. The government have led those families up the garden path for the last 2 years. Does she not understand that the disinfecting light of a justice inquiry, of a truthful inquiry, is the only thing that will give those communities and those families the confidence that they need back in the South Yorkshire Police Force?
I would urge the honourable gentleman not to leap to anger quite so quickly. This government has taken the time, has looked at the documents. I have been in post for 3 months. I have met with the families. I have met with the campaigning MPs. The fact that I have reached a different decision to the one that he holds doesn't mean that it is in any way dishonourable. This is a difficult decision to make. I have made it considering all the facts, and I believe it is the right one.
Dennis Skinner.
Is the Home Secretary aware that her predecessor made it clear to my right honourable friend some months ago that there would be an inquiry into Orgreave? So it's not really a decision that is any different from the one that we suspected beforehand. Why is it that the government, and it appears to be the government, have now taken a decision which is contrary to the one that the previous Home Secretary, now the Prime Minister, gave in answer to my right honourable friend several months ago?
Well, I can tell the honourable gentleman that I have taken this very seriously. I have spoken to the former Home Secretary about the decision, and I have ensured that all the matters and the papers were carefully considered. We have taken our time to arrive at this decision. There was no commitment made before, only a willingness to look at all the evidence. Perhaps he could acknowledge a willingness that was not taken by the Labour government in order to ensure that the right decision is taken after absorbing all the information.
Yes.
Welcome the decision of the Secretary of State, because whilst public inquiries can in some instances be successful, too often they cost huge amounts of money, they take many years, and they don't even answer the question they're asked.
Well, I thank my right honourable friend for that point. And in a way, the easier political decision would have been for the government to agree to an inquiry. But I cannot see that it is in the public interest, given the substantial changes to policing that has taken place since 1984.
Andy Burnham.
Given that the IPCC found evidence of perjury and perversion of the course of justice, and given that in the last month new evidence has emerged from former police officers who were at Orgreave of orchestrated violence and the mass manufacture of police statements, aren't we right in concluding that the establishment stitch-up that she has just announced today is nothing more than a nakedly political act?
No, the right honourable gentleman is entirely wrong. He chooses to politicise it where there is none here. I had a meeting, as he knows, with the campaign group. We had a frank exchange of information about it. But the fact is, just because he disagrees with the decision I have made does not mean that it is the wrong decision at all. I have made it honestly, based on the evidence.
And Jarvis.
Speaker, there will be huge concern across South Yorkshire and further afield at the decision that the Home Secretary has made. Can I therefore ask her specifically if she will meet with the Orgreave Truth and Justice campaign to discuss this matter further?
I have spoken to the head of the Orgreave Truth and Justice Committee this morning, and I am not surprised. She was very disappointed. I set out my reasons, and I have written her and the campaign group a 6-page letter. I would perhaps suggest to the honourable gentleman that they have a chance to digest that before we set up any meeting.
Diane Abbott.
I don't think the Home Secretary fully understands how disappointed and let down the Orgreave family and campaigners will be by her decision. A 6-page letter doesn't compensate for the violence and injustice that occurred at Orgreave so many years ago. We know the South Yorkshire Police lied about what happened at Hillsborough, yet only 5 years earlier, the same South Yorkshire Police, many of the same commanders, behaved in a very similar way at Orgreave. The Orgreave families and campaigners need the same justice as Hillsborough had. They need the same type of independent inquiry to establish the truth.
I would respectfully say to the Right Honourable Lady that the Hillsborough situation was quite different to Orgreave. 96 people died. It was right that we had an inquiry that analysed exactly what happened on the day. In this situation, in Orgreave, there were no miscarriages of justice. There were no deaths. There were no convictions. The Right Honourable Lady should be aware. Therefore, it doesn't merit the same level of status as a public inquiry as was required for Hillsborough.